Head tan, cold eye and collar, under the mud we crawl. Heavy, the clock stopped ticking now. Silence, buried deep under the frost.
In the year 970 BC, King Solomon ascended a throne that would soon govern the most legendary fortune in human history. While modern economists obsess over fluctuating market indices, ancient records suggest a hidden technology of prosperity that defies our current logic. This is the millenary secret of wealth, a sacred blueprint for accumulating vast fortunes by following forgotten laws of cause and effect. Historians often debate whether this opulence was divine favor or a calculated mathematical system. Archaeological evidence reveals that these ancient figures didn't rely on luck or miracles, but on a rigorous framework of mental discipline and strategic management. They treated currency as a form of energy directly linked to character, creating an economic ecosystem where disorder was the ultimate enemy. What many dismiss as simple proverbs are actually sophisticated triggers for resource multiplication. We are talking about a strategic patience that turned shepherds into influential monarchs and desert tribes in a global trade hubs. But the most ignored detail is how this ancient financial engineering was intentionally obscured from the masses over centuries. As we peel back the layers of these hidden codes, a disturbing question remains. Was this wealth technology lost, or was it hidden to maintain control? By examining the civilizations that flourished in the Fertile Crescent, we realize that the contemporary financial system is merely a simplified version of much deeper strategies. In the Judea of remote times, the economy did not depend on digital graphs or volatile markets. Instead, it relied on a rigorous ethics of management that shaped the destiny of entire nations. Historians suggest that the basis of the opulence described in archaic manuscripts resided in a conviction that material wealth was just a reflection of mental order. For the ancient patriarchs, systemic disorder was the greatest enemy of prosperity. Each harvest followed a mathematical logic of absolute preservation that modern society has completely forgotten. This precision allowed them to thrive in harsh environments. The main conflict arises when we contrast this ancestral wisdom with the scarcity mindset and immediate consumption that define modern humans today. While we seek dangerous shortcuts and fleeting profits, the records indicate a different path entirely. Millennial fortunes were built upon a rock of patience and emotional mastery. Imagine a commercial scenario where every spending decision was weighed against the legacy of future generations. This created a cycle of perpetual accumulation that never failed. Economic archaeology reveals that the trade routes controlled by figures like Solomon operated under contracts of mutual trust. These were advanced laws of reciprocity that ensured every merchant involved could achieve a state of lasting abundance and security. It was not just about stockpiling gold in coal vaults. It was about promoting an intelligent circulation of values that sustained the entire social ecosystem. This mysterious historical flow allowed wealth to reach every corner of the kingdom through organized labor. The great historical mystery lies in how these practical principles were gradually forgotten or transformed into mere spiritual allegories. They lost their concrete financial meaning over centuries of cultural shifts and the deliberate suppression of this highly effective economic technology. A technical analysis of ancient writings shows that the term wisdom was used as a synonym for technical skill and strategic discernment. Those who possessed this attribute could identify invisible opportunities where others saw only barren and empty deserts. They transformed lack into abundance through sophisticated methods of logistics and resource allocation. The debate among academics intensifies when we notice that the guidelines for prosperity in these chronicles required a level of self-discipline that few individuals cultivate today. The conflict between momentary pleasure and building a solid patrimony is the central piece of the puzzle that defined great empires. Investigators wonder if this specific technology of financial multiplication was hidden by later elites to ensure control over the masses. After all, a society that masters the laws of financial independence becomes immune to systems of debt and dependence on central state power. By studying trajectories of figures who rose from misery to the top, we find mathematical patterns ignoring luck. The systematic application of savings rules and continuous investment in productive assets formed the fundamental basis of their success. This documented vision forces us to reconsider everything we believe about success in this fast and superficial era of information. We dive into a reality where the possession of resources was seen as a sacred responsibility, requiring a maturity that the contemporary world has lost. Ancient palaces were centers of capital reserves that protected the entire population during times of severe crisis. The economy operated in precise cycles, allowing nations to prepare for the harshest droughts. By understanding these rhythms, the ancients turned survival into a science of mastery. Their methods remain etched in stone, waiting for those bold enough to listen. As we delve deeper into the records of civilizations that thrived in the most unforgiving deserts, we discover that the true concept of wealth transcended the mere possession of physical coins. The biblical economy operated under a logic of constant flow, where the hoarding of resources was viewed as a dangerous sign of spiritual stagnation and imminent ruin. Historians observe that the laws of tithes and offerings were not merely religious obligations, but rather a sophisticated mechanism of capital redistribution that ensured the health of the entire commercial ecosystem. This forced circulation prevented the formation of financial bubbles and kept the market warm, even during periods of absolute scarcity. The tension increases when we realize that Solomon's system utilized maritime trade to bring rare raw materials, transforming a small nation into a global logistical hub. Each transaction was guided by a code of honor that drastically reduced transaction costs, something modern economics tries to replicate with complex contracts and expensive insurance today. The real mystery rests in how this blind trust generated exponential and long-lasting profits. Many scholars suggest that the secret lay in the rigorous control of time and seasons, understanding that physical wealth is just the result of alignment with invisible natural laws that govern all creation. There was a profound understanding that each economic cycle required a different stance. The time to plant demanded extreme sacrifice, while the time to harvest required implacable logistical management. What few realize is that neglecting a single stage of this cycle resulted in the fall of entire dynasties. This proves that the mathematics of abundance does not forgive amateurs or the impatient. But the most ignored detail for centuries is that there exists a specific mental component that differentiated the great patriarchs from common workers. They operated under a frequency of long-term vision that we call compound interest. If you want to deepen your understanding of these hidden principles, we have prepared a material for you in the description below the video. Financial archaeology reveals that Joseph's storehouses in Egypt were not just grain depots, but instruments of absolute geopolitical power that controlled the destiny of nations. He did not just predict the crisis, but created a credit system where neighboring nations became dependent on his management. This ability to anticipate chaos and transform it into opportunity is what separates the names that history immortalized from those who were forgotten by the dust of passing time. There are great debates about how the discipline of savings mentioned in ancient proverbs created a barrier of protection against foreign invasions. A well-managed treasury allowed for the hiring of defenses and the maintenance of internal peace, showing that prosperity was always the greatest weapon of a strong nation. The emotional weight of this knowledge is heavy, as it reveals that scarcity is often the fruit of systemic disorder. As we walk through these ruins of wisdom, it becomes clear that the true technology of enrichment was the capacity to transform the invisible into the visible through organized labor. The breaking point emerges when we understand that biblical wealth was not the fruit of mysticism, but rather a sophisticated engineering of conduct. Modern science now investigates how neuroplasticity reacts to the principles of self-discipline described in these millennial manuscripts. Those who truly flourished in the past mastered the difficult art of delayed gratification, a psychological concept that remains the bedrock of financial success today. The grand revelation hidden between the lines is that abundance was treated as a closed system of integrity and intelligence. Historians point out that the fall of great kingdoms occurred precisely when these principles of transparency and rigor were abandoned by the ruling elite. Solomon's legendary gold was not a static miracle, but the result of a vast intelligence network that mapped global trade routes with mathematical precision. Recent studies suggest that this famous ancient wisdom for business functioned as a primitive algorithm for exponential growth. Every decision was filtered through an ethics of excellence that eliminated the waste of time and vital energy. What many call luck, the ancients called preparation, meeting the right opportunity in the market. There are intense debates about how a scarcity mindset is implanted in contemporary society to stall individual development. The analysis of archaic texts reveals that mastery over one's own finances was seen as the first form of true political freedom. A man who owes nothing to anyone becomes impossible to be controlled by oppressive systems or volatile market shifts. And this is exactly where the story changes for those who decide to apply these hidden codes today. Social physics proves that specific behavioral patterns generate predictable results in any era of humanity. By abandoning the modern desire for immediate profits, the individual enters a cycle of accumulation that history documented as infallible. Many wonder if this technology of prosperity was simply forgotten or if it was deliberately concealed by powerful institutions. The most ignored detail is that the laws of cause and effect do not need belief to function. They operate like laws of nature, rewarding order and punishing negligence. The secret emerges when we realize that material capital is merely the reflection of a mental empire built in absolute silence. Each proverb of management serves as a solid brick in the construction of an impenetrable economic fortress. Real abundance is not about having much, but about being capable of multiplying what you already have. Economic archaeology shows us that trust was the most valuable currency of the ancient world. Without digital contracts, a man's word was his greatest financial asset and his only guarantee of survival. This level of integrity generated a velocity of business that few modern economies can reach. What few realize is that sacred mathematics requires a radical change of identity. It is not about seeking gold, but about becoming the person capable of managing the empire. History does not forgive those who receive fortunes without possessing the internal structure to sustain them. Prepare to see the financial world under a new lens, where ethics and technique walk together. The final code of wealth is engraved in persistence and the search for applied knowledge. The mystery ends when the practice begins, revealing that prosperity has always been within the reach of the disciplined. The most solid empires were built on the foundation of unwavering patience and strategic vision. The millennial secret survives, waiting for new masters to take control of their own financial trajectories. As we contemplate the silent ruins of palaces that once overflowed with pure gold, we recognize that history guards more than mere stones. It preserves living lessons about human order and the mathematical alignment with the fundamental laws of management and time. The opulence of the ancients was never a product of chance. but a result of profound strategic clarity that turned barren deserts into thriving empires. Those who mastered the shifting sands understood that the real currency of trade has always been trust and long-term vision. While the modern world loses itself in the pursuit of instant gratification, the legacy of the great merchants remains a stern reminder of the patience required for true greatness. They knew that prosperity demands an unshakable internal structure, a character capable of bearing the heavy weight of immense wealth without succumbing to internal corruption. Financial archaeology proves that lasting success is a construction made of daily decisions that prioritize a future legacy over immediate consumption. There is a precise science behind how these fortunes were protected and multiplied through generations of systemic discipline. The transition from theory to practice is the vast abyss that separates the names immortalized in stone from those erased by the winds of mediocrity. Existem de tal nisso tudo que a maioria das pessoas nunca entende porque ninguém ensina o contexto completo. Nós estudamos isso mais a fundo, e isso muito completamente avisado sobre essas histórias. Se você quiser esse aprofundar de verdade, no que está por trás disso, preparamos a material para você na descrição abaixo do vídeo que explica tudo de forma muito mais profunda. The question remains whether you're truly ready to accept this ancient wisdom and apply it with the rigor that the science of abundance demands. Share in the comments if you believe that wealth is a predetermined destiny or the inevitable result of universal laws that anyone can eventually dominate. By subscribing to this channel, you ensure that the powerful voices of the past continue to echo in your own journey toward financial mastery. The sacred code was never about hoarding metals, but about the mental freedom that allows one to create abundance where others see only a desert. In the end, the greatest treasure is not buried under the sand, but lives within the courage of those who decide to act with integrity today. Gold eventually disappears, but the wisdom governing a master's mind is eternal and remains the only true guide to glory.